This month is all about the hips. So we're going to modify different poses that we find often in classes and how to modify them for somebody with a hip issue. And it can be any kind of issue. Obviously, some poses are just not going to be good for some people, and so we're going to talk about some modifications, and it depends on the person. You know, if they have some type of joint problem, we don't want to push to the point of pain regardless of that. So we're going to start out with a seated forward bend. So I'm going to use a blanket to raise the seat, because what that does is it helps the spine become long, so we don't end up in our forward bend rounding. And we don't want that. And we remember the whole spine is connected here. So as we're going forwards, we remember that the hip is a ball and socket joint, right? So we're going to keep those joints together. We never really want to just lengthen and pull and pull and pull the joint apart. We want to make sure that we are protecting that joint by engaging those muscles. So we engage the adductor magnus. We keep the head of the femur in the acetabulum. So we roll the shoulders down and back. We've got the hips lifted here, and so we could also just roll over the mat if we needed to roll over the mat. We're pulling the toes up. Thighs are rolling slightly inward here. We're not going to let the feet drop out to the sides. So if you need to keep a little bend in the knees, that's okay. Sometimes that takes a little bit of the pressure off, and we can roll a blanket, or we could use a towel if you didn't have a blanket. So we're pulling the toes up towards the kneecaps, pulling the kneecaps up towards the hip, and then we're keeping the femur and the ball and socket joint together. So when we lengthen here, we're lengthening at the hip. So a lot of times, if somebody has a hip issue, it might be hard for them to bring the legs apart, or it might be hard for them to bring the legs together. So you just kind of have to play with that. You can always use a strap. It's better to use a strap and maintain the integrity of the pose than it is to just be doing this. And if you reach for the feet, you notice what this does to the shoulder. It immediately rotates it. Right now my back is completely curved. We want to keep a nice flat back, right? So as we reach, to maintain a more neutral shoulder, and again, this is going to pull on the low back, which is going to pull on the hips. So we're going to grab, and we can bring the legs closer together if that's comfortable. Roll the shoulders down and back. We gently grab the strap here around the balls of the feet, and we're bending at the hip, just like in a standing forward fold. Now we don't want to create so much of a stretch that it's causing pain. And if somebody needs to be here, maybe they don't need a strap. Maybe they just need to sit here. Maybe this creates a stretch for them. If their hips are that tight, then this might be enough, just being right here and leaning slightly. Just pull the lower belly up, rotate at the joint. So this one is a pretty simple one. You can take this out. I feel like sitting on a bolster makes it a little bit too tippy. But this is a pretty simple one. You can modify with the blanket for the knees, which is just going to relax the leg a little bit more. But as we pull up, lengthen, pull the belly button in. So we're not making the belly hard as a brick. It's still going to soften, but we're not leading with the head. We're leading with an open chest. So the sternum is lifted, and we're coming forward. We're keeping the head in check. We're not, again, not leading with the head. And we can do modifications with the hands. We could just leave the hands here. We could bring the strap up and come here. If they are recovering from, say, a hip surgery or something, you could leave one leg out and just do one side. But we try to maintain balance in the body, so if that's the case, it might be better in general to just go ahead, and even if this was out of the picture, say we come down onto the mat, go ahead and just come up here, and we just practice engaging the front of the body if there is some bigger issue there. So we're just engaging all here, and we're engaging this, so this is going to try to lengthen, right? as we come into the stretch.